Hey guys, it's Samuel here from HowToFAQ, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can retrieve emails from an email box in Python using IMAP. Now, I did a video about how to send emails in Python using SMTP quite recently, so if you're interested in that, then there's a link up top right in the cards and down in the description below. So let's get started on this video. So this video is all about retrieving emails from email boxes, being able to read emails in Python. So let's just start off with some very basic authentication. So it's quite similar to how you do it with SMTP in terms of sending emails. You have to log in and you can choose your various methods of doing that. The method I'm going to show you is quite an easy way using the IMAP lib module. So let's get started with that. So we're just going to actually first define a username and a password. Now I just made my own test account to use, just so we could do a few tests, because also if you're using a user which has lots and lots of emails, it's hard to do quick tests. So I recommend making an email like a Gmail account quickly, and just so you can play around with it. And you'll see the password is actually blurred out there, just so nobody's just logging into it randomly. And we'll define an IMAP URL, and the IMAP URL is where their IMAP server is. So for Gmail, this happens to be imap.gmail.com, which is quite nice. It's very similar to the smtp.gmail.com. Okay, so we have the username and password defined, they're constants. We'll now set up a connection. I like to use the variable con for this, and we say con is equal to imap lib.imap 4, and then underscore SSL, so it's encrypted. There's different methods you can use, but it's best using encrypted, so if someone was to intercept the network, they wouldn't be able to steal traffic, steal your emails, etc. And we just input the IMAP URL here, and that should initialize a connection. But now we need to log in, so we can do con.login, and that allows us to log into the interface. So if we do username and password, so that should initialize a connection. And let's just start that off, F5, and we're just going to see what that does. Does that log? Yeah, so it logged in successfully, which is a good start. And we can actually test stuff out live in the shell here. So if we do con.list, you can see it lists all our inboxes, or all our mailboxes. So you have different mailboxes like the spam folder, the inbox folder, the sent folder, the all folder, the all mail folder, the draft folder, the import and folder, just lots and lots of things, draft folder, yeah. So we have to select one of these boxes in order to search. So we might want to choose something like all if we want to look at all the emails, or if we are kind of a bit more particular, we might choose something like the sent folder to see some emails we've sent. So it's quite simple, and you can do con.select. I'll just show you right here, con.select, and then make sure you get the inbox name, or the whatever the name is, correct. It has to be exactly the same as that, all in capitals, and it will select that, and it will return its ID. So the inbox has a number or a size. So that's what that is there. Anyway, moving on from messing around with selecting mailboxes, let's just change up our code a little bit. Let's select the main inbox by default, and we'll just type that in there, inbox, and let's get some data. Let's get some emails back. So we can do this. There's a simple syntax, result, comma, data, which is just assigning the two. It's basically assigning the two items in the list to two variables, which is just nice Python syntax that you can use. So con.fetch, and this means we're fetching an email, and at this point we have to pass its email number or email identifier. So 10 refers to the email we're identifying, so it's actually talking about a particular email. So all the emails will have numbers in the inbox corresponding, and we have to enter in this little string, which is basically, you don't really need to know too much about it. It's basically talking about the protocol, etc., procedure. If we do that, we can hopefully receive some data back. the result here, this variable, should return whether it fetched the data or not correctly, and the data will contain the data, obviously. So you can check this and not check the data. That's the whole idea anyway. So let's just hit F5 and run this again. Okay, so if we just type data, now it'll take a few seconds because it's quite possible that the data from this email could be quite large. And you can see in this instance, the data from the email was actually very large. And you can see this is base 64, which infers that it is in fact containing an attachment. And I'll get on to how to download that later. Anyway, let's choose a slightly better email to use, because obviously when it has an attachment, loading an attachment that might be like 10 megabytes is going to take some time just to download, and especially through your interface, it's not going to be very nice having all of the many bytes of base 64 up on your screen. So let's just do something like 11, see what we get. And you can see it returns it fine. And let's do something where we're not going to get a massive attachment, for example. So here, if we return the data, you can see that this is just an email from Google, just asking about, I don't know, something, but this is all in HTML. Yeah, so you can actually parse this and then read it, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So let's make a function called getBody, and this getBody function is going to enable us to basically extract the body of the email so we can read it. This is only for our purposes. I mean, I don't know how useful this would be otherwise. So you can do message is underscore multipart, and this should detect whether there's multiple parts to the email. So what I mean by that is the email contains a payload, and in the payload it contains the body, any attachments, and then like subjects and things like that. So let's just return itself get underscore body msg.get underscore payload 0. Now we're doing this because if it has multiple payloads in it, we want it to basically loop through all of them until it finds the first one. So that's basically what we're doing there. So it's just going to go take the message and do it again, because we want it to look at the first payload. Anyway, so we can do else, and we'll return, because if not multiple payloads, then we can literally just return msg underscore get underscore payload non-true, and this is just referring to getting the main bulk of the message. Anyway, so it's quite simple. This should extract the message from this. And it's quite important that we get the data from this email we're extracting. And I'm just going to do this by saying raw equals email.message underscore from bytes. And we're just going to place in the data. And we actually need this particular part of the data. You'll see that this is actually in byte form. You can see it's in byte form because it has this B at the beginning, which suggests it's in byte form. So that means we can parse this email, and by parsing this email will allow us to read certain parts of the content. So let's try this out. So we've extracted the raw bytes here, and now we just want to get the body. So print get underscore body, and we're going to insert the raw part of the raw bytes that we've basically obtained. So F5, and you'll see here it's literally just extracted the body and nothing else. So it's taken this and it's filtered it down just to this, so you can read it, etc. Has all the new lines and stuff in, and this is just referring to like having like another new line there, another new line there. Just interesting stuff to look at. Okay, So next, let us look at some more interesting things. If you have, if you're accessing an email box, what else are you going to want to get? Well, you're going to want to be able to search things, right? You want to be able to search things on your email inbox. You want us to be able to see. That's what everybody does. So let's see how you're going to do that. So we're going to write our own function to do this, to search. So this function is going to be called search, and actually in IMAP you actually have to give particular parameters of what you want to search for. So you might want to search for a person based on where the message is from, or search for an email based on something in the body, something in the subject, who the email was to, you know, things like that. That's what you have to consider. So I'm going to do key, value, and the connection. So this is going to evaluate all these things. So the key is going to be like whether it's to, from, the body, the subject, and the value is going to be the expected value that we want to check for. So we're going to do result, comma, data equals con.search, and we're going to do non, comma, and we're going to put the key. And actually after this is when the value comes in. And they like having it in quotes like this, so they like having the value here. So whether it was like an email address or something. So I'm going to actually format it in using these curly brackets and doing dot format, and we can insert the value here. That's a neater way of doing it. I prefer it to do it that way. And then we can just return the data. Yeah. And I suppose we could return the result and then ask for the data or something like that, but just for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to make a search where it just returns the data. And after it returns the data, it's going to be returning in this sort of raw byte form, a bit like this. And what it will actually be returning is, I'll actually show you what it's going to be returning. It will basically return a list of email IDs, like we're searching for here. This is an email ID, and that is what it's going to be searching for. So if we just hit F5 again, I can actually show you that we can actually, might just restart the shell here just to gain a bit more space. There we go. So what we can actually do is when we run the shell, F5, you can see it comes up there. We can search for something. So let's search for within the from, so an email from something. And we're actually going to search for an email from mail dash, I think it's mail dash no reply at google.com. And because they always send emails, and this is their new inbox anyway, so it'd be interesting to see what they've sent. So, and also we're going to pass the connection. So searching within the from attributes, and we're going to search for the emails from them. Okay, let's hit enter and see what we get. And you can see we get this small list of email IDs, and you have to pass that in a special way because of course this is not like a normal it's not a normal list. It's not like the list with one. I'll show you. It's not like 1, 2, 3. It's not like that. It's completely different. So we're going to have to pass in a different way. So what I'll make is I'll make something called get underscore emails, and the emails, get underscore emails, I'm going to basically pass result bytes. And with these result bytes, I'm going to be able to print out some stuff maybe, or append it to a list. So for the sake of this, we're just going to append all this message bytes to a list. So I'm going to do for num, or you could do for ID in result underscore bytes dot split, and we're splitting it because we want to take it from this byte form to a list form. And that's what we're doing. So splitting will allow us to separate it into sort of a list form and allow us to iterate through. Okay, so now we're going to do type, comma, and type, comma, data equals we're going to basically fetch the email for each of these. So it's going to fetch the data. So we substitute the num which is what we're iterating through, and we have to give the protocol and other things here. Okay, so now it's iterating through, fetching the emails, and I'll just append those to a list, and then at the end we'll return the list. And let us see, return MSG. Okay, so now it goes through. Basically, whatever we get from the search, we can place in the get emails. It'll get like a list of emails, and then we can iterate through those emails, I suppose, and maybe get like the body from it, or stuff like that. So let's see what we get. So F5, of course, prints that same old thing that we had before. I might actually comment that out because it's getting a bit irritating having this here. Okay, right, so what we can do is we can just do a simple search, and we're going to search for, actually let's search for the same thing, because we saw we got 3 emails there. Let's search for the same thing, and we're actually going to set this to MSGs, and we're going to do the get email. We're going to do a function within a function, and we're going to do that. So it's basically going to set MSGs to the search results. So let's just do that. It may take a few seconds, and you can see we have a response. So now let's go through each of these messages and get the body. I'm going to actually print get underscore body. It's good to understand how things work, and playing around with some code in the shell is always very easy because you can execute it live. You can see how it works on your code. So hit enter. Oh, oops, I mistakenly forgot one simple step. Let me just show you it. Yeah, so before we can do the get body part, you remember we have to do the email message underscore from underscore bytes. We have to make sure we do that in order to convert it into a readable format, so we can actually extract what we want from it. And remember, we want this particular part to get the body. And you can see it's printed out all of the emails, well, it's printed out the body of all of the emails that I've received recently from Google on this test account. So that's a pretty nice, easy way of doing that. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this particular part. But let's get on to another part that may be deemed more difficult. We're going to have to deal with attachments now. And essentially what we've got to do is we've got to get the email, and the email will contain base64, which is like, look it up if you don't know what it is. It's basically a way of encoding data. So it encodes the data in base64. And with this base64, we can decode it on our side and download it. So say it was an image, like a JPEG image, you upload it, send it an email, get it base64, download it, decode it. That's what Gmail does for you. But since we are the interface at this stage, we're going to have to do the decoding. So what we'll do is we'll make our own function called get attachments. So let us just do that now. Here we're going to make another function called get attachments. And what this is going to do is literally what it says it's going to do. It's going to download the attachments and save them to a file. So in order to save them, we're going to have like a known attachment directory, or at least somewhere where we want to download them. So I'm going to make my own attachment directory, and I made one earlier, and it is, I think, C drive. Actually, I can probably just find it quickly on my other monitor and copy it in. Okay, yep, I found it. So that's my attachments folder where I'm going to save the image that I'm going to download. And we can use this attachment folder just to download the images straight to it, or whatever we're downloading in terms of attachments. So let's do for part. Now, emails are made up of parts, that's why we're calling it parts. And there's this interesting thing called msg.walk. And that syntax allows us to go through the message and the actual content of the message. So let's do if part.get underscore content underscore main type. Now this should allow us to identify the main type of the email, whether it's a multi-type, whether it's something else. Multi-type, because we want to know, first of all, does this email contain an attachment? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We need to know. And we're actually going to put something called continue, and this means that it allows us to go, we basically, if this is true, then we can continue in sequence. If it isn't, then it stops. And it's just another way of doing things, another way of testing out. And obviously you can't, this next step you can't do unless it is a multi-part, so that's why you have to do it like this. So you do parts.get content dash disposition, like that. And if it is equal to none, then continue. And obviously if it wasn't multi-part, then it wouldn't be equal to none, so yeah, hence it wouldn't work. And now we can actually obtain the file name from the part. So we do file name equals part.get underscore file name. So we obtain the file name, and you need some parentheses right here. We can obtain the file name, and then we can check to see whether the file name is actually a boolean. We want to check if it's a boolean or not, because if the file name equals false, then that means the attachment isn't there. So that's why we're doing this second part here. And that basically converts it into a boolean. If it's false, then it wouldn't continue. Okay. File path. Now this is when we actually need to add to our list here. We include OS. Now file path is what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be joining the two file paths, the directory here of our attachments directory. We're going to be joining that with the file name. And we're basically just going to join it and write the file directly. So let me show you how we're going to do that. We go os.path.join, because we're joining the files. I'm going to do the attachment directory. So attachment underscore directory and comma file name. So now we have the file path. Let's write the information. So we're going to do with open, standard way of opening a file and then writing it, with open. And the nice thing about this with open is outside the parentheses, it automatically closes. Outside the indentation, it automatically closes, so you don't have to worry about opening and closing the file yourself. It does it for you. So you can do file path, which we just joined up, and we're going to be writing bytes, so WB, because writing bytes, as F. I just like using F, or file, whatever you want to do. File.write part.get underscore payload, and the payload is obviously the attachment. And we're going to set decode equal to true, which means it will decode the attachment when we download it. So now, if we were to find an email in I've actually already set one up. If we find an email in our inbox with an attachment, we can actually save that attachment. So let's test this out and let's see how well it actually works. So I'm going to quickly check to see which one of my emails will have one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. So I think one with ID 9 should have one. I should be able to get the attachment, and this will do all the writing and stuff. So it's quite a simple procedure once you understand the code, how the email is kind of orchestrated. An email isn't orchestrated how you think it is. It's not logical how you think it is. When you see the email, you see the body, the subject, and the attachment. You think, why isn't it just those things all together? But really, the overall thing is a list of bytes, and it contains everything all at once, and you have to decode it, and then it has this data structure that you have to follow. And that's what we're doing right here. We're following the data structure that emails under IMAP anyway follow. Okay, so let's just enter raw. So we're just going to be going for number 9 anyway, and we should be able to hopefully get the attachment back and see what the image looks like. And I'm just going to find the file directory, and now let's just test this out. So we're going to hit F5, and apparently it's done. Apparently it has made the image or the document. So which one did I test? I think I tested one with a document. So here you go. So here I have a document that says this document contains information. It's just an email I sent. And we can try it for one with an image as well. I believe 10 has an image. If we try that one out, I just hit F5 here. OK. And apparently that's done as well. And you can see the images here. It's got a picture of the sea and stuff. Just a random image I found on Google Images. Anyway, that proves the concept. It proves how you can get attachments and easily download them. You can see I got a document as well. It's quite easy to do, and if you just follow this methodical approach in making functions and setting it up in a way that's logical, then you should be all right. Okay, so let's just clean up this code a little bit. For example, we might not want the authentication here. We might want the authentication to be a separate function that we then call and then we deal with afterwards. So let's just set that up as follows. So we'll just make another function called auth. Now this obviously isn't required, but it makes the code slightly neater and slightly easier to read. Let's say you coded a project and you want to read back on it in a few months' time. It's much easier to read if it's in functions like this that make sense with comments, etc. So we just basically need to put this part into a function, and then this stuff can be called quite easily. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And obviously for the attachments, you might want to set up a function that gets the bytes or does something like that, but that's quite easy to do in one line already. So whether you want to do that or not is your call. So you can see we can set up the auth pretty nicely here. You could say con equals auth. In fact, you could just copy this top line here, and it should set that all up quite nicely. And hit F5, and you can see con equals that. It runs through all this, and there's an error here just because we haven't actually returned con here in the auth, which is kind of required. Otherwise, how is it going to get the variable? So F5, and everything works, which is great. And I imagine it overwrote that image again because I left this here. Anyway guys, I hope this has been somewhat helpful to you understanding IMAP. I know that when I first was trying to understand how to use IMAP, there weren't any really great YouTube tutorials out there about how to really methodically go through and understand how to get attachments, how to search for things, how to get emails, authentication. That sort of stuff wasn't there. So I thought I'd make a video about it. Hopefully you guys understand this, and if you don't, please put any questions or queries you have below in the comments. And also, if you need the code and you just want to read through it and play around with it yourself, of course I'll be putting it on GitHub, on my GitHub page. The link will be down below in the description. And yeah, be sure to get subscribed, make sure you like the video, and like I said, any questions, just put them down below. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.